All right, so good evening, everyone, and a very happy weekend to us all. So today we'll be looking at the last class on this biology section. Okay, so we'll first of all look at crop improvement, economic botany, and then zoology, and then probably just a review of what we have done so far. All right, so for some weeks now we have been looking at crops, at plants, plant diversity, looked at structure, their tissues, their reproductive system, and today we want to look at what genetically what modifying some crops. So GMC, genetically modified crops. So genetically modified crops are what? They are crops whose genetic material are what altered using genetic engineering technique. Don't mind the grammar. What it simply means is what? Using some key techniques, some steps, some procedures to genetically, that means modifying something in the DNA of crops, in the DNA of plant, so what to use desirable what qualities. It is using the what knowledge, the knowledge of biotech, biology, what in technology and biology, to do what edify some genetic content of plant. The sole aim is to what produce desirable qualities that you are looking for. So when we talk about genetically modified drugs, we are saying bringing plants, then working on them to change their genes, to change their DNA, so that the traits they will exhibit, the traits the new seed now will exhibit will be what much more superior than the previous one. Okay, so I'll paint a simple illustration of genetically modified crops, but then I'll use from a natural aspect. Let's say you see a mango tree. Now this mango has fruit. The fruit of this mango, whenever it's finished ripening, it is very, very, very sweet. Now when you eat it, you love it. You love the taste. It tastes sugary and all. Now there is a problem. Let's say that mango, the fruit is very, very what small. And then there's another mango tree in your compound, or maybe in your neighbor's compound. This mango tree has what some desirable qualities. The seed, the fruit is very, very large. Whenever it's finished ripening, the fruit is very, very large. But then there's a problem. If you pluck that large fruit and eat, it doesn't have the same taste as that one you ate earlier in your own compound that is small but sweet. Rather, this one in your neighbor's compound is large. Yes, it can satisfy you because it's very big. But then its taste is what reduced. It doesn't have what that sugary taste like the previous one. One of the things you can do here is what, let's say you now try doing cross pollination. You use pollen grains from the mango tree that is very large and then cross it with the one that is what small yet sweet. When you do this pollen grain transplant, let's say after that generation, the mango tree ripens again and produce fruit. There are chances that the fruit you produce may be modified. Now you are mixing what qualities from two different trees. One is large but tasteless, the other one is small but what sugary. When you mix the two of them, there are chances that there will be what blending of their gene. Let's say you continue replicating this thing for maybe years. Finally, you will now, let's say you are now successful and you have what a fruit that is not just large but now very, very sweet. You just modified that crop genetically, but then you did it by what repeated cross pollination, which may or may not be successful and still what waste years. But then scientists they discover a way that you inside what a laboratory, you can experiment on this plant, you can develop seed, you can alter their genes to do what, to give you desirable qualities that you want. That is everything what in a nutshell about genetically modified crops. So there are those what crops that have their genetic material altered, changed using what some genetic what engineering techniques. So we are going to look at some example of these crops. BT cotton. BT cotton. This is called BT cotton because it contains some genes. Okay, it's like what a cotton. You know what is called a cotton plant, right? Now this BT cotton is genetically modified. Some genes from bacterial cells, Bacillus thuringiensis. Some genes from it is what extracted and then worked on using this cotton to do what? To make this cotton what? Resistant to bollworms. So when you bring this BT cotton, this normal cotton, they now mix it with genes from what? A bacterial cell, modify their genes, alter them. What are they trying to do? To make them resistant to what? Bollworms. So I told us earlier that the sole aim of modifying crops is to do what? To give them desirable qualities. From that illustration I gave you, we are modifying that crop by cross pollination. We are trying to give it a beautiful quality in the sense that it is both very sweet and large. Sweet and large. Now, in this case, this beauty cotton, it is modified in the way that it is resistant to what? A special type of worm that attacks it. Secondly, there is what an engineered rice called golden rice. Golden rice. Now, this rice is what engineered in such a way that when you eat it, it is able to produce something called beta carotene. Beta carotene. Now, this beta carotene, when I use in your body, it is a precursor for what? Vitamin A. So, genetically modified rice, which is called golden rice, when you eat it, contains, it is what highly enriched in vitamin A more than your natural rice. The third example I listed there said is what? Herbicide resistant soya beans. Herbicide resistant soya beans. Now, soya beans most times are attacked by what? Weeds. You have weeds all around them. In some cases, you try to control the weed. Let's say you have a large plantation where it's not be that feasible to start what weeding the farm all time, and you want to employ the services of what? Using what? Herbicide. Sometimes the herbicide can what? Have impact on your soybeans. It can still kill it. Now, you can engineer your soybeans in such a way that the soybeans they will be what? Resistant to the chemical in herbicide that kill weeds. Now, even if you should spread those soybeans what? Those herbicides, it will not what? Be affected. So going back to our definition again, you are trying to alter the natural genetic arrangement, the genotype of that plant, to give it some desirable qualities. In the first one, BT cotton, we are giving it resistance to bollworm. In the second instance, golden rice, we are making it what? To be enriched in vitamin A, so that when you eat it, you will have what? More vitamin A. And then in the third example, soya beans, we are what? Modifying it in such a way that it will be adaptable. It will be what? It will kind of like bulletproof against what? Herbicide attack. But now let
Sir,
me ask
please,
you this
I'm
question.
not seeing your screen.
Sorry?
Sir, please, I'm not seeing your screen. Like I cannot see. This blur is not clear.
Okay, what about now?
It's clear now. It's clear now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the feedback. Okay, so someone said I should do a recap, right? So I'll explain once more. For those that are just joining in because I was hearing some sound. Please, if you have a question, you can just wait. Once I'm done speaking, you can now unmute your mic and ask your question, okay? I don't know if anyone is raising their hand. I may not be able to see it because I'm presenting. Okay, so our topic today is genetically what? We're concentrating on genetically modified crops. Then we also look at botany, zoology, and then recap of everything. So genetically modified crops are just plants. They are crops that was you engineer their genes you look into them, change one or two things, or introduce another foreign gene into it to do what? To make it have a desirable quality. There's a characteristics you are seeing in another plant you want to add in this one. You now must take it to the laboratory, those gene engineers, genetic engineers. Now they will alter their gene so that when you plant them, they will yield those qualities you are looking for. And I went ahead to give us three examples. One called BT cotton. Now BT cotton is a type of cotton bacteria to do what? To give it resistance. They're normally prone to herbicide. You can modify it in such a way that even herbicide spray cannot kill it. Now, what are the advantages of modifying plants? Number one, increased crop yield. Some plants, okay, just like the first illustration I gave you, you saw a mango in your own compound. The mango is sweet but small. Another mango in your neighbor's compound is large but tasteless. You will now start doing what? Doing cross pollination, and maybe you may be successful to get a what? A generation whereby the seed you are going to produce from that tree will be both large and sweet. That's very good too. Though in genetic engineering, you can save yourself those stress of cross-pollinating for years. And you can what? Engineer it in your laboratory and get your what? Result quickly, even much more accurately. Now, one of the importance of doing this is that you can modify some plants in such a way that their yield will be massive. That's number one. Number two, enhance resistance to pests and diseases. From our example here, we saw what? Herbicide resistant soybeans. You can modify them. You can modify the plant to give it what? Resistance against some diseases. Now, okay, BT cotton. Now we say that bollworms attack cotton, right? Now, when you finish modifying it, those worms can no longer what? Attack it again. It becomes much more resistant to it. Number three, reduced need for chemical pesticides and herbicides. The last one, improved nutritional value. Example, our golden rice that now has not just carbohydrates but can offer you what? Vitamin benefits. But then most times ethics governs everything we do. Ethics govern everything we do. Most of us here are Nigerians, right? Your parents, there are what ethics they taught you when you are growing up. You don't do this, this is not done that way. This is right, this is wrong. Morality as well. Now, bringing this into the sphere of agriculture, scientists are still not what? Free to do anything as they like. Why? Due to ethical issues. Now, there are a lot of ethical issues that have what? Risen up. A lot of, is this right to be done this way? This should not be done this way. This should not be done that way. That have risen up in the what? Context of genetically modified crops. One of them includes what? I've categorized them here so it can be easier for us to explain. Now, under the health concern aspect, there is what? Concern for potential allergenicity. Allergen, okay? Now, though Nigerians don't normally suffer allergy, there are fewer cases here than outside of the country. Now, an allergy is when your body immune system reacts abnormally towards something. Let's say some people are allergic to pollen grain. Once they inhale pollen grain, their immune system attack pollen grain as if it is trying to kill a virus. It was overreact, hypersensitive, and can cause some issues. I have a friend, she's allergic to rain. Whenever it rains, her skin reacts, and then it's kind of like throw spotted stuffs on her body. Good. So there are now concerns that what if you should genetically modify allergenicity, whereby someone can eat it and what become allergic to it, or the body can react in an abnormal way. Number two, transfer of antibiotic resistance gene. antibiotic resistance gene. Now, some of these plants, their gene are what? Their gene are designed in such a way that they can resist antibiotic. Now, there is a concern that this antibiotic gene can be transferred to what other plants. Let's say you have um let's say you have now, let's use an example. Which example will I use now? Let's say you have cotton that is genetically modified, and let's say somehow it was able to do what? Transfer that his gene. Trying to create a scenario that you can understand here. Okay. Now let's use plants for example. Some plants have wide varieties. Some varieties of it are good, some varieties are what? Bad. In the sense that they have adverse effects. Now, there are chances that that plant which is considered good can transfer its pollen grain that has been modified to the one with adverse effects. Now, when this happens, that one with adverse effects can even grow more what? Stronger and become more resistant to what? Antibiotics attack. Also, in the aspect of human beings, when you eat something like rice now, let's say rice that was genetically modified, you now eat it into your body. Peradventure, you have gut bacteria, or you have some bacteria that what are in your body as well, probably that infected you are treating. Those bacteria have this high adaptability rate. They can easily what adapt to environment, especially when they are there for long. Now, this food that have been modified even gives them okay, let me call it, gives them the materials that they can act on and what kind of like shield up, kind of like someone that is wearing an armor. So you are now introducing what? Antibiotic varieties of food into your body. These bacteria can act on it and convert it, using it as what? Defense to become resistant to what? Drug attack. Another second column is what? Gene flow to wide relative, and explain this under cross pollination. Impact on non-target organisms. Development of resistant pests or weeds. These can be issues that can arise from what? When you genetically modify some what? Plant. You may develop resistant pests, whereby a pest feeds on a plant, and then due to those plants have been modified already, those plants can what? Have some of those genes transferred to the animal, and then the animal can also what? Evolve with it and adapt, leading to what? Issues. Imagine a scenario, you bring a fish and you want to use a fish. Okay, you now poison a fish and then keep it somewhere. A rat comes in, eats the fish and die. Normally, that's what should be happen, right? But now imagine another scenario whereby this same rat went and ate a genetically modified yam, and then probably after some time, because of the introduction of new genes into his body, the body evolved to become what? Resistant to that poison. And then eventually discover, there's rat in my room. You now go and buy fish, waste your precious money, buy fish, poison the fish, for the rat to come in front of you, eat the fish and go scot free. That is one of the concerns, that you can what? Introduce genes that are resistant to these animals, and these animals will evolve them. Then there is this socioeconomic issues about patent rights ownership and seed monopolies, whereby the farmers will have to now depend on companies that will produce this modified seed before they can plant. Imagine a company wakes up and any amount this company sets on their seed will now determine how much the buyers will buy it from them. When the buyers finish buying it, the buyers will as well raise the money um to what gain back their capital and also make some profit. It can cause what? Dependency on biotechnical what? Companies. It also cause what? Monopolies, whereby the people that first made that genetically modified seed can dominate that spec. That's called patent rights. No other company will be allowed to produce it except them. And it can what? Channel economic power to them alone, which is not good. And the last one, the equity of access to technology. Some foreign countries will have access to these beautifully modified seeds, whereas all those other countries that are less developed do not have access to this. Furthermore, creating what agricultural divide. So let's go down to the last there. Consumer concern, labeling, and the right to know. One of the ethical issues that can rise up is what concern from consumers. Imagine I come to tell you now that there is what this rice has been imported. This rice was grown in a laboratory. That is, the white men treated it with chemicals and then they are now selling it in bags. I tell you the truth. If you now go to market to go and buy rice, you now be careful to know if you are buying the one that grew naturally or you are now buying the one that was grown in the lab. A typical Nigerian want to buy the one that grew naturally. Nobody wants to buy what was synthesized in the lab. Typical Nigerian man. So it will now raise concerns whereby the consumers will now enter a market and start quarreling over, is this thing, start demanding the right to know, is this thing from the lab or is this thing from what naturally? Kind of like from just the what natural aspect of it, not modified. And also it can lead to public perception and acceptance, whereby the public can what either accept it or what reject it. Any question on this aspect?
No question.
Okay, thank you. Now let's look at both an economically important plants. Economically important plants. I believe most of us have ideas on this already. Now, under the aspect of food crops, economically important food crops include what? Rice, wheat, maize. They produce what? Food for billions of people globally. Most of us know that this is season for maize, right? In June, July, August, you should start seeing maize everywhere now. It's what of economic importance as staple food. Then rice is now general food. Rice, then wheat and bread. Are you getting it? So the other category of economically important plants include what? Industrial crops. Industrial crops. Cotton used in making what? Textiles. Jute is this kind of plant that is used in making ropes and sacks. Then all of us knows about what the rubber tree that you can extract and use to make what tires. Then the third category includes what beverages. Beverages. Now beverages include tea, coffee, cocoa. They are what key export commodities. Just that things have just gone so bad in this country. Earlier before, um, there was once a time Nigeria was chief exporter of most of these food products, palm oil, granules. I believe you heard the stories, right? And then since discovery of oil, all these plants exports and commodity exports have what, gone down almost to what, very minimum, zero. Even many states have stopped producing for exports. Only people are now producing just to sell within the country. And then the only key tool from foreign currency now is what export of oil, which is very bad. Also, we have spices and condiments, your pepper, your clovers, ginger, cardamom, and also medicinally important plants. Some plants has medicinal qualities. Example, neem, it has antibacterial, antifungal, anti-insecticidal properties, and also used for traditional medicine. Then the aloe vera, sisters in the house. Aloe vera, I believe most of the times we use it for our hair, natural hair growth, and was rubbing the skin. Now, aloe veras, they have the gel for burns, wounds, and what skin moisturization. It is also what anti-inflammatory. Then there is this plant that is used to generate medicine for malaria. Um, Ci- Cicona plant. It is also what? quinine that is used in malaria treatment, and then digital is for cardiac glycosides for heart failure, and then turmeric. Turmeric is used for anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects. Turmeric is like ginger like. You can cut it and put it in food. It has this yellowish color, just like fried rice. Okay, so far, any question before we now enter into zoology? Okay, I'll take that as a no. All right. So, introduction to zoology. Zoology is a branch of biology that deals with the study of animals, including structure, function, development, behavior, and evolution. Importance in understanding biodiversity, disease research, wildlife conservation, environment protection. Scope, it covers microscopic organisms to large mammals, explores habitats from deep ocean to arid deserts, and then subdisciplines. Okay, so we have talked about botany. Botany, whenever you hear botany, please, what should come to your mind is what? Plants, study of plants. Whenever you hear zoology, zoo, zoo means animal. Whenever you hear zoology, study of what? Animal. So zoology is just talking about what? Dealing with animal studies, their structure, how they develop, how they function, how they behave, how they evolve. That's everything zoology. Now, why is it important to study this animal? Why is it important to look at your cow and then say, okay, the cow that should be for meat is now what's proper for me to read and write into my notebook? When you study these organisms, you'll be able to learn more about what the diversities of what animal life. Then you can research them to see how disease work, the physiology, the pathophysiology. Also, it can help us in what conservation of what our wildlife. Can now discover what organisms that are what going extinct and how to preserve them. And most importantly, environmental protection. Now, please, when you hear animal, we are not just talking about mammals, birds, reptiles, or the big animals you can see. We are talking about from the microscopic level to the macroscopic level. Please, you can notice somewhere, micro means small, macro, M-A-C-R-O means large. So the scope of zoology covers from the what microscopic level to the what macroscopic level. It explores what habitats from deep ocean to arid what deserts. Now, what are the sub-disciplines in zoology? Sub-discipline means what? Other smaller disciplines you can study under zoology. Number one is what? Entomology. Entomology talks about the study of insects. Ichthyology talks about the study of fish. Ornithology, that of bird. Herpetology, now talk about reptiles or amphibians. And I'm talking about mammals, you and I, your cow, your goat, and the rest of them. Now let's look at diversity in zoology. First of all, when we talk about plants, we also discuss that plants have various diversities. That is, so many different types, various types, and the rest. Same thing happens in zoology. There are so many types, so many classes. So we'll be starting with one. How then are scientists able to categorize all these things? And they said, okay, let's classify them under body structure. You will now have invertebrates and what? Vertebrates. Invertebrates are those animals without a backbone, whereas vertebrates are those animals with a backbone. Also, then they are now classified under what major groups: arthropods, molluscs, annelid, echinoderm, then pixies, amphibian, reptiles, birds, and mammals. The first group is what? Invertebrate. The second group, the pixies, amphibian, reptiles, birds, and mammals are vertebrate. So arthropod, mollusk, annelid, echinoderm, they don't have backbone. The species, also called fishes, amphibian, reptiles, birds, and mammals, they have what? Backbone. Also, you can look at them, their diversity from the places they live, their habitat, their special adaptation. Some of them reside in where aquatic, terrestrial, and aerial what habitats. Aquatic in the sense they live in water, terrestrials live in land, aerial they live in what? They jump from trees to trees. Example, birds, squirrels, and the rest. Then amphibious, they live both on land and in water. Also, you can also classify them by their morphology, that's their structure, physiology, that is what the function, how their body system function and the rest. Then their behavioral traits for survival. Are they the ones that hibernate during cold season or they migrate and the rest? Their behavior was for survival. Now, learning them also will help us to know their ecological roles, the role they play in the earth ecology. Some of these animals are pollinators. And whenever I talk about pollination, what comes to your mind is what? Bees. Bees are what? Pollinators. Even some instances, ants as well are what? Pollinators. Then some are decomposers. They break down what? Dead materials. Some are predators, lion, tigers, and the rest. Whereas some are the preys, they're the ones fed on antelope, gazelle, squirrel. Also, others are what? Ecosystem engineers. I can't talk about pest engineers without mentioning birds. The beautiful thing they weave there, oh my god, it's very, very nice. So let's now look at the general characteristics of animals. General characteristics of animals. Number one, animals are multicellular and eukaryotic. Multicellular in the sense that they have what? Multiple cells and they also have what? Membrane-bound organelles and what? A nucleus. Two, they are heterotrophic in nutrition. Heterotroph, heterotrophs means organisms that cannot produce their own food. They ingest what? Food from the what? Environment. Number three, they lack what? Cell wall. Unlike plants that have rigid cell walls, animals do not have cell wall. Number four, locomotion. They have the ability to move from one place to the other. Five, reproduction. They can what? Give birth. Most of them are reproduced was sexually, some others was asexually. Then number six, the body symmetry and organ system. They have what symmetrical. Unlike plants, some of these plants you can't cut them into two to have what equal symmetry. But most animals are what symmetrical. Example, radial jellyfish have what radial symmetry. Humans are bilateral. If you cut me into half, you see what we see equal on what each side, except your internal organs. Then they have what well developed digestive, circulatory, nervous, and reproductive systems. Okay, so that's all for what we have today. Looking at if there is any other thing we should touch. Is there any questions so far? Any questions so far? Okay. So this is just review of everything we have looked at. We have looked at genetics, cell biology, ecology, botany, biochem. We also looked at was some practicals. I explained to us how we can do them. Are there any questions, please? I want to take our questions.
Thank you.
Okay, so this brings us to the end of today's class. I wish us a very wonderful day and success in our academics too. Good night, everyone.
Hello, sir.
Hello, people.
Yes, please, can you upload the PDF on the group?
Okay, all right, no problem. I'll do that.
Thank you, sir.
Good night, everyone.